It's Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. A proper big fight, this one. We've been waiting for it. And appropriately, we brought together two big names from the Sun, our fighting experts, Chisanga Malata and Wally Downs. I wasn't happy with Tyson Fury when he called out a respected fighter like Oleksandr Usyk, calling him a little sausage man, belittling him in my view, somebody who's really earned respect from everybody. You tell me, it's trash talk, it's all part of the way boxing is. I didn't like that, and I think he should have more respect.
Well, I think I speak from the little sausage community, Sean, when I say that I wasn't particularly offended. So, listen, the thing with Fury is he says so many crazy things, you just can't really take them too seriously. I see some, even journalists say that Anthony Joshua does too much media. It's so wrong because he doesn't do a lot, but because of that, every word he says, we have to use and we have to scrutinise, whereas Fury's the opposite. I've been at so many media events where he has said one thing which is honest and articulate, and then in the next room or on the next YouTube camera, he will say something pretty grotesque or strange. Quite famously, in the same afternoon, he said he would only fight Anthony Joshua in the UK for free, and all the tickets had to be given away at Wembley. And he walked 2 yards further down and said he'd only do it for £500 million. So don't take anything he says too seriously, sadly. It can be a bit confusing, and I think it does annoy probably the casual fans, but the hardcore boys, you know, we know you just can't really take too much notice of it.
Chisanga, you spend quite a bit of time in the UFC world, and we see characters like Conor McGregor, who I think comes out with some pretty heavy stuff sometimes, and a bit lively. Do you cringe sometimes at some of the things that, say, Fury says to an opponent?
Yeah, I do, especially with the little sausage comment. I know you said you speak on behalf of the little sausage community.
I always have.
Yeah, but as you alluded to at the start, this is a fight that doesn't need any selling. The first undisputed fight in 25 years since Lennox Lewis, Randy Holyfield to MSG. Or, yeah, maybe I'm just getting on in my age and I don't like to see trash talk or whatever, but I'm in agreement with you.
I think it's I don't like to see trash talk when it's two fighters who are really proper, respected. Yeah. I can sometimes understand it if it's somebody who's an outsider, somebody not expected to win, who's trying to call it on, who's trying to wind somebody up. But I just think this fight is beyond that. Yeah. It's not something we should be having.
No, but you tried telling Tyson Fury that because...
Well, no, I'll probably not bother, thanks.
Yeah, again, I think there's a perception that maybe he has this huge PR team behind him, or these geniuses who write his scripts. You know, everything he does is ad hoc, it's off the cuff. So even with the launch press conference, he has sat there and said wonderful things about Usyk, the respect that he's got for a man whose country's going through a war, the things that he's done, achievements as an amateur, London 2012 gold, undisputed cruiserweight king, and then the next one he'll say, ugly little rabbit man. So
that's a great impression.
I'm getting better. Well done.
So what do you make of Usyk by contrast as a character then, Will?
I'm pathetically biased. I'm a fanboy. I genuinely sit down with him and I can't take my eyes off him. I listen to everything he says. And it isn't just recently where he talks about the Ukraine and what his family and his people are going through, because that's good enough. But I even remember around the Bellew fight, long before this happened. I mean, I think he's Crimean, so he's obviously been experiencing it for a long time. But the invasion that hadn't happened by then, and there's something about him, the way that he talks. I reckon he understands English perfectly. He's just such a perfectionist that he doesn't want to slip up or make a mistake. So he uses his manager or his promoter as his translator. Everything he says, you can't not be enthralled by a little bit, and it's not just when 5 or 6 of us sit around a table, it's not just when you're questioning it, he goes around everyone, and there's a belief and there's a trust. I remember the first presser we did with him was, I think, the AJ rematch after the invasion, and we all sat around going, God, you know, this is going to be awful. How's this poor man going to be able to talk to us about boxing? And we were thinking the worst, as we often do, sitting down with a fighter and wanting to press him on personal stuff. And he was incredible. I think for the only time in my brief career doing this, our intro was a quote. We did a quote intro. You know, my children say, "Daddy, please don't die." So he's an incredible character. I'd like to know, and one day I do hope to get the chance to ask him, do you think you'd be like this if you was a plumber or a postman? Because there is something about him that is incredibly interesting, and he won't get involved with any of the Fury stuff. He laughs and jokes about Fury. Sometimes he'll mention his weight. Other times he just says, he's a bit of a joker. But I'm really fascinated by him, so I'm probably not the best one to ask for an unbiased opinion.
Chisanga, you saw Fury having a very difficult time against Francis Ngannou, who you will have known from watching a lot of UFC. It was a fight that everybody thought, well, that's going to be dead easy. I think even Eddie Hearn said that the Southern Area champion would dispose of him in one round. And then you ended up with a fight like this, where suddenly Ngannou is catapulted forward into the mainstream, and questions are being raised about Fury and whether he can even cope with Usyk because of what happened in that fight.
And I think those questions are extremely valid. I think when the fight was made, everybody, and quite rightly so, was angry at Tyson Fury for slowing the progression of the heavyweight division. I mean, the first undisputed fight, I believe, 24, 25 years is right there. And then he's going off to box a novice, somebody who boxing fans had never even heard of, or maybe have just seen him passing from one of his viral knockouts in the UFC. And I think it was almost a black eye on the sport of boxing, to an extent, that they entertain this, or they've almost given Fury so much power that he's can pick and choose to what fights that he wants, and it blew up in his face. It well and truly blew up in his face. And I think for me the photo, I don't know. Well, you obviously watched the fight and you saw when Fury was down on the canvas and Francis was looking up at him and dancing in front of him. I could almost like place the word boxing on Tyson Fury's there and make a meme out of it and put MMA on top of it as well. Fury disrespected the sport, and he also disrespected Ngannou, and thinking that, I'll just run straight through him.
So were you shocked by Fury's performance against Ngannou?
He was really heavy. He looked really heavy at the launch presser, which I think was about 9 weeks out, perhaps. And when he arrived in Riyadh, he looked okay. He looked in shape. He's obviously not body beautiful, but he looked trimmer. Looking back now, and I think I didn't really look at it properly until maybe the Sunday or the Monday, his nutritionist and strength and conditioning man put up a post on Friday after the weigh-in, where again he took his top off and he looked trim. I think he weighed essentially 19, 11, say 20 stone. He put up a photo with a before and after picture and said, this man's worked so hard over the last 8 weeks and he's lost 26 pounds, essentially 2 stone. Now, as a heavyweight, you're not making weight, but he shouldn't be 2 stone heavier, 22 stone, 8 weeks out from a fight. And also, if he's telling everyone, I'm always in the gym, I'm never out of the gym, I have to be made not to train, then he wouldn't be 22 stone. So I think he took the fight lightly. I think he thought he'd win very easily. Credit to him for not using it as an excuse and saying, I thought it'd be a doddle, I wasn't that bothered. Fair play to him, he's given Francis all the credit. But that's what I think did happen. He thought it would be easy, he thought it would be easy money, and he was definitely surprised. All week long he'd been saying it was a real good fight and he's a real good guy and he hits hard and he can take a dig. But the very last time we spoke to him on the Thursday evening, he said to us he couldn't beat me with a machete and a gun in his hand. And you saw what happened. I think he took his afterball. I think he was lazy, and and I think Francis was excellent.
Yeah. Usyk's beaten Joshua twice. He beat Dubois. Before Dubois came back to prominence again, he eats up value. He eats up British fighters. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't find it too difficult. Do you think his demeanour, the way he carries himself, he's a confident man. He won't be fearing somebody like Fury?
The Sunday after Fury and Ngannou, we got to have a bit of a chat with him afterwards in his hotel to look back on it. And I did say, look, this fight is all done now with you and Fury. Will you be different in fight week? You're so open, you're so happy, you let us in, you talk to us. I said, will you be different? He said, absolutely no way. He said, I'll be exactly the same. It will be just another fight. And when I retire, all the reporters that have been nice to me, I'm going to invite you all over to Ukraine once everything's calmed down. And I can't see him changing. People forget these guys have had 300 amateur fights going abroad, going away. I think he probably will treat. He's releasing now the photos of his sparring partners, and it was similar to when he was boxing AJ. The sparring partners are all 7 foot. Some of them are southpaws, some of them are orthodox. Some of them are punchers, some of them are annoying and tricky. I can't think of anyone who's really more dedicated than him.
We've got two fighters who've got, well, one's got an unblemished record in Usyk, who's I think, was he 21 out of 21. Fury, who's won a fight by one draw. Something he's going to give. So, predictions for the fight.
Despite my unblemished record, Sean, a good biggun does beat a good littlun, and I think if Usyk's 16 stone, Fury will be 20 stone. That's 4 stone, 6'9", 6'3". I think if Fury wants to make it a boring fight and just dominate him like that, I think he might be able to, because Usyk has had to pile on so much weight. He was a middleweight as an amateur. I think he would have started his career at 11 stone almost. I think Fury, if he wants to, he can make it boring. Not that it will be easy, and I think he can win in that way.
Gave Usyk all that great big build-up, how brilliant he was, and how wonderful. Now you think Fury's going to win Chisanga?
You know, I wouldn't be surprised, given how things have gone for Tyson Fury in recent years, if a massive upset comes to fruition, and if Usyk wins, and maybe he's too fleet-footed for him, he's too in and out.
You'd call it a massive upset, though, would you? If Usyk
I would, given the fact that he started his career in middleweight and then obviously undisputed cruiserweight champion. It would be massive. It'd be a massive upset. Obviously, as Wally said, he mentioned the big size difference, weight difference between them. So it would be a shock. But there's just something about Fury's career and how it's gone over the last few years. It just makes me think that he's just going to come up short in this. And I think Usyk is going to win by points. I'm putting my neck on the line and saying that.